Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you'd like to support my channel, please check the link above to my Patreon page. I'm here with round 2 of a modern competitive league. I won round 1 against Teamer Energy with Aetherworks Marvel. I see the opponent has a fancy avatar, which has me extremely intimidated off the bat. They won the die roll, but I have an awesome opening hand, so not too disappointed. The opponent mulliganed to 6, I kept, and I'm pretty sure they put a card on the bottom of their library. Unclaimed territory naming humans gives it away right off the bat. We are playing against a humans deck, which we're typically pretty favored against in my experience. We get to go a little bit wider than them with Master of Waves. I've got Kira in hand, which will let me gain a turn against a Mantis Rider if necessary. Drawing a third land is pretty much perfect in this spot. We'll go ahead and play out an island and an AEther Vial. Potentially developing a tempo advantage against the opponent's non-AEther Vial opening. But it looks like they're going to jam Mantis Rider here on turn 2, which means it's going to have Exalted. And yeah, we're already facing down a 5-turn clock. Now, it's not super duper fast, but it's difficult for us to deal with. This guy has Vigilance, so we can't even bounce him with Harbinger. I don't have any removal in the main deck for game 1 other than Harbinger. We'll take AEther Vial up. We're going to play out a... Well, we drew a 4th land, which is okay. It'll let us get to Master of Waves. Play out a Lord of Atlantis pass to the opponent. They have a 3rd land on turn 3 and a 2nd Noble Hierarch for double Exalted, followed up by a Reflector Mage. So this is an amazing curve out for the opponent's mulligan to 6. My Lord gets bounced, and we're going to take 5 right now for Mantis Rider. Now, the Mantis Rider is still a 4-turn clock, despite being a 5-5 here now instead of a 4-4. After 3 turns, we'll still have 1 point of life left, so it doesn't really change the clock on us too much yet. So let's go ahead to our turn and see what we draw. AEther Vial is going to go up to 2. And Cursecatcher is okay. But I think running Kira out is correct because if the opponent has another Reflector Mage, he can bounce Master of Waves, which seems terrible. Or could bounce a Lord if I play him out with a Cursecatcher. So let's just play Kira out here. And the opponent just went straight to combat after their draw step. Double Exalted again. We're not going to block yet because we want to protect Master of Waves and we also want Devotion from Kira. So we'll take 5 now. As I mentioned, we still have 2 turns on that damage in the air. And let's see, the opponent does follow up with a 2nd Reflector Mage. So Kira was a good choice. On the opponent's end step, we get to bring in one of our Lords. I think I'm going to leave AEther Vial on 2. And we hit a 2nd Master of Waves. I'll play my Cavern of Souls, Vial in the Lord of Atlantis, and go ahead and cast one of the Master of Waves immediately. Now, since the opponent's on 20, even if we play out the 2nd Master of Waves next turn, all these guys will become 3/2s. We're probably not going to have a lethal attack next turn. So we have to kind of think about what they're going to be doing with their attack step. If they get in with double Exalted again, we would probably just take that hit and go down to 1, leaving the protection back on our side. Play out the 2nd Master of Waves, get 15 3/2s, and yeah, at that point we'd be able to chump the Mantis Rider and probably just go wider than the opponent for the win the following turn. But no good attacks to be had this turn for sure. The opponent plays a freebooter, which isn't so terrible because we don't have any non-creature cards in his hand for him to take. But it changes the math on our potential blocks here, because if the opponent gets in with a double Exalted Mantis Rider and we take 5, that makes both of their flying threats lethal the following turn. So we probably would have to chump the Mantis Rider now, but with 1 card in hand, we're not too afraid that the opponent has another Reflector Mage in hand, or maybe even a Phantasmal Image or something like that. Well, as it turned out, the opponent had a Kessig Malcontents in hand, ending a really, really remarkable curve out on a mulligan to 6. This is going to deal 7 damage to my face. The opponent's not even going to have to attack. And despite having Aether Vial with a really nice curve of our own, being on the draw this game was just too big of a disadvantage to be able to overcome. Really, really strong stuff from the humans deck there. That was kind of a clinic in how a humans deck should operate. All right, so we lost game 1 against a deck that I think we're slightly favored against. Look away if you don't want to see the match results. I'm going to click out of the window now. I don't know if you guys hear that noise in the background. There's some construction going on outside, so sorry if that's a little bit distracting. Taking a look at the sideboard, it's really simple. We've got 2 Reejereys out, 2 Spell Pierces out. Reejereys come out just because we want to keep all of our 2-drops in this matchup, and Master of Waves is one of our trump cards because he goes wider than they can go. So 2 Reejereys out. We keep the Cursecatchers in because we want to be low to the ground. We want to be pushing aggressive damage. Spell Pierce, they have very, very few non-creature spells in the deck, so Spell Pierce is not going to do a good job. We brought in 4 spells that deal with creatures. We brought in 2 Echoing Truths and 2 Dismembers. Very easy sideboard strategy, 4 cards in, 4 cards out. I'm going to be on the play. This is a great opening hand. We've got some removal. We've got an Aether Vial. 2 Silvergills are going to give us some card advantage. Opponent only has Ancient Ziggurat Go, but they did keep their 7 cards. Aether Vial on 1. Awesome seeing Harbinger. We want as much interaction as we can get in this matchup. We'll go ahead and play the first Silvergill Adept and reveal the second Silvergill Adept, and drew a third Silvergill Adept. So the opponent taps for black, and I'm thinking Freebooter here, which kind of stinks because I have a Dismember. But they go with Bob. Now, this is not a typical inclusion in the humans deck, I think. Have you guys seen Dark Confidant in any humans deck? I don't know if it's sideboard tech. It seems a little sketchy against Merfolk, where we're hitting their life total really fast. But really happy not to see the Freebooter here because we can cleanly answer the Dark Confidant with this Dismember. And continue to accrue card advantage of our own. Even better card advantage than this Dark Confidant. We're going to draw a lot of cards off these Silvergill Adepts. Aether Vial is going to go to 2. I think I'm going to go straight to combat here. I doubt the opponent wants to trade his Dark Confidant, but let's give him the opportunity to do it. Chooses not to, goes down to 18, and I think I'll start off by vialing in one of my Silvergill Adepts. Maybe there's a land on top of the deck. So Echoing Truth is more interaction, which is very nice. I actually think Echoing Truth on the Confidant is best here because it lets me use my mana sort of as efficiently as possible. It keeps my life total high by not using Dismember. Prevents them from drawing a card off Dark Confidant, and if they don't have a third land, they might just have to use their entire turn 3 replaying a Dark Confidant. So let's go ahead and bounce that guy. And if they replay him, we always still have the Dismember. Now the opponent kind of misclicked there, going straight through their first main phase to their second main phase without playing a land. They do have a land drop, though, to make in their second main. And it looks like we're going to see a Mantis Rider. Yep, there's the Mantis Rider. So bouncing the Bob was actually awesome because they didn't get to get any value off that guy, and they chose not to replay him this turn, instead playing a Mantis Rider, trying to stabilize the board. I think I'm going to activate during upkeep here to bring in Silvergill Adept. You can draw a card and make an informed decision as to whether I want to take this Aether Vial up. I'm pretty sure I do here. Getting to Master Wave next turn would be pretty awesome. And we drew another Master of Waves, so ticking it up was definitely the right play. I think I'm going to dismember this Mantis Rider. In theory, I should be at 17 life if he had cast this guy during his first main phase, so we can keep that in mind. But I'm going to play a Mutavault, activate it, swing for 6 after dismembering this Mantis Rider. So I go down to 16. The opponent's going to take 6 and go down to 12. And if you look at the amount of power I have on the board here, it's 10. And if I vial in an vial in a Master of Waves, the Mutavaults will become 3/3s, and it's actually exact lethal next turn if the opponent doesn't have any creatures to play. But I doubt that that's going to be the case, since we know he has at least a Dark Confidant in hand. After playing a Horizon Canopy, it looks like we're going to see yet another Mantis Rider. Yep, there it is. Now, the value on these Master of Waves is too good to not take Aether Vial up. The opponent's going to get in for 3 here, and remember that we should have already taken 3. So in theory, we would be at 10 life. On my upkeep, I'm going to tick Aether Vial up to 4. Drew an island, which is really perfect because, I mean, yes, I could play out Master of Waves 1 and then Master of Waves 2. But I'd rather just put Kira onto the table. It gives me more devotion, and even just getting the tokens from 1 Master of Waves going into my turn 6 is going to be enough to close the game out. So let's just protect our investment in the board by playing Kira and set up the win on the opponent's end step with this Master of Waves. I thought for a moment about attacking. The opponent could eat one of my Silvergills and I would push 4 damage, but we really don't have to. It's just going to be really unbalanced after I put Master of Waves onto the table. All right, opponent plays Athalia's Lieutenant. That makes the Mantis Rider bigger. Plays an Aether Vial off Horizon Canopy, attacking their own life total for an Aether Vial of dubious value at this point in the game. And then we see a Meddling Mage naming Lord of Atlantis. So, not that threatening. The opponent's probably going to get in for 4 with Vigilance here. We're going to go down to 9, which, remember, could be 6 if the opponent had gotten in previously with the Mantis Rider. So we're going to bring in Master of Waves, and he's going to give us, I think, 6 Elemental tokens. The opponent's at 10. We've got 2 Mutavaults, another Master of Waves. Absolutely no way that the opponent can compete. And I think at this point, the opponent just scooped. So pretty routine game 2. The opponent had double Mantis Rider, which was extremely aggressive. And if they were on the play, they might have actually been able to get there. But Master of Waves with Kira protection, just too good for the opponent to stop. So humans won game 1, Merfolk won game 2. Look away if you don't want to see the match result. And we're back for game 3. The opponent's going to be on the play. This is a beautiful opening hand. The opponent kept 7 as well. They've got a Noble Hierarch, but we're going to get to play an Aether Vial. Drew into an Island Walk Lord, which is pretty awesome. Okay, so no blue mana means no Mantis Rider. Casting Malcontent is a 3-drop, but it's pretty poor since there's only 2 humans on the table. We go down to 18, and we're going to tick Aether Vial up on the upkeep. And we have some thoughts, some decisions to make, I guess, about what we play here. Of course, I could bounce the Noble Hierarch with Harbinger. That could get some value. Opponent could easily have a 3rd land and just play out a 3-drop anyway, though. Spreading Seas is a nice option because if they play out a freebooter, he could take it out of my hand. Of course, you know, Meddling Mage could always just name Spreading Seas, taking us off of the Island Walk combo win. But for me, at this spot, the opponent already has a Hierarch in play, and taking them off of one of their Rainbow lands is not going to slow down their mana. So Spreading Seas doesn't seem like the best option here. And against an aggressive opening start, I'd really like to get a body on the table, and I also want to draw cards, hopefully hitting lands so that I can more comfortably curve out here. So I think Silvergill is the pretty clear choice. I think I just revealed one of the Island Walk Lords, and hitting a 3rd land is perfect there. If the opponent attacks with Exalted here, I'd probably just trade the Silvergill Adept for the Malcontents. I don't want to take 4 damage here. Well, we see a Champion of the Parish, and this mana looks like it's probably going to be a Reflector Mage. Which, while good because it lets the opponent get in cleanly for 4 damage this turn, I get to draw an extra card off the Silvergill Adept. I don't know how relevant it's going to be, but card advantage is an advantage. Opponent gets a lot of power onto the board pretty early here. But Aether Vial is going to help us sort of maintain parity. Okay, that 4th land is awesome. Unfortunately, we're a little constrained this turn. We don't have a 3-drop to play. And we're not going to have 4 mana, so we can only play one of our 2-drops. The opponent just bounced Silvergill, so we can't cast him. And we'd really rather keep Aether Vial up for Harbinger. So Silvergill's probably going to stay on the bench this turn. So that pretty much just leaves us with the decision between casting a Spreading Seas and casting a Lord. And There's a couple reasons to prioritize a Lord here. We want to get bodies on the table, of course, and then on top of that, it provides more devotion for Master of Waves, who is likely coming out next turn. Let's go ahead and play this Lord, and probably going to bounce the Champion of the Parish with Harbinger of the Tides. Okay, opponent starts with a Meddling Mage. That's going to trigger this champion. Let's see. Seems like Spreading Seas would have been a good call off of me playing an Island Walk Lord, but the opponent is afraid of the Master of Waves. It's really not that bad for us because we can just take this Aether Vial up. Okay, another Noble Hierarch means even more Exalted. It's going to trigger the champion, and then with double Persist, he's getting in for 6 here. So yeah, holding up this Harbinger is huge value. We get to save 6 points of life. The opponent will get to play this guy back out, but he's just going to be a 1/1. And with Master of Waves coming, well, actually not so soon, right? Because the opponent named him with Meddling Mage. We'll still be able to play 2 2-drops at least this turn and take Aether Vial up. We're definitely going to do it during upkeep. We'll bring in the Silvergill to make a fully informed decision about taking up Aether Vial. Another Master of Waves makes it pretty clear we just want to go straight to 4. Okay, so we're probably just going to play Spreading Seas in the Lord, but we'll open with Spreading Seas to see what we draw. Okay, all these lands. We'll just play out the Wanderwine Hub and follow with the Lord here. All right, so pretty quickly we've got a lot of power on the table. Real quick, it's 4, 4, 3, and 3, so 8 and 6 is 14. If we get in with our non-summoning sick creatures with Island Walk, he's going to go to 13, which means 14 will be a lethal 2-turn clock. We just have to do a tiny bit of math to make sure that the opponent can't easily kill us next turn if we only leave these 2 guys back. As it stands, they've got double Exalted on any of their big guys, so they could get in as a 5/3 with Malcontents, but that's not going to do it. Reflector Mage is decent because it takes us off one of our Island Walk Lords, slows our clock down. We wouldn't be able to play out the Island Walk Lord since Reflector Mage says you can't, and Aether Vial is going straight to 4 anyway. Note that they have no flyers right now, which means that Master of Waves just jamming up the ground is going to be excellent for us. It should give us enough turns to kill the opponent, even if they do have something like a Reflector Mage. So Reflector Mage is a decent draw for the opponent, but it doesn't necessarily kill us. Another Malcontents or Phantasmal Image copying Malcontents would deal 7 to our face. It would trigger the Champion of the Parish. He'd become a 2/2. But we've got a 4/3 and a 3/3 back, which means that we could easily just eat a Meddling Mage and a Champion of the Parish if they try to just attack us with all their guys. So if a Malcontents or a Phantasmal Image copying Malcontents took us down to 7, they'd only be able to attack really for like 5. So we'd still be at 2 life, and as I mentioned, we have a lethal attack. Thalia's Lieutenant would make all their guys grow. But again, we have a 4/3 and a 3/3, which means that we can eat 2 Noble Hierarchs very easily. This guy would get triggered and get a counter. So we'd be looking at 4, 3, 3, that's 10, plus 3 is 13, leaving us at 1. So even Thalia's Lieutenant doesn't get there. I felt pretty comfortable going in with both of my guys here, pushing the aggressive 2-turn lethal here. The opponent has 0 cards in hand, so they're totally at the mercy of their top deck. In those kinds of situations, you want to leverage any kind of aggressive advantage that you have. All right, so let's see what they got. Champion of the Parish isn't going to be close to enough. They attack with a Reflector Mage with double Exalted, and absolutely no reason to block this thing. I'm going to take 4. Opponent is empty-handed, and I think at that point they just scooped. So, yeah, we came back after an unfortunate Game 1 loss. We had an amazing opening hand, but the opponent had on the play an even more amazing hand. Turn 2, Exalted Mantis Rider, ultimately finishing us off with a Kessig Malcontents dealing 7 to our face without even needing to attack for lethal. But I came back with a whole bunch of Master of Wave, a whole bunch of Island Walk, and yeah, we got there in the second round of this competitive league. So far I've beaten Temur Energy and I guess 5 color humans. Let me know your thoughts. Leave any questions you might have. Please check out my Patreon page. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And tune in next video for round 3 of this competitive Modern League. Thanks, guys. I'll see you there. Bye.